The word to us now, and then we'll have the dedication. If you do have any little ones that are getting restless, if you want to follow Hilary, she's here, you can take them out into the top room where they can run around or anything. If you're happy, stay here. If you want to go out for a little while, we'll bring you back when the dedication's happening. Okay? Does anybody want to come? I don't mind playing with the toys myself.
Well, you don't have to take them all away. Are we on, John? Okay. It has been quite a week. I will share. I got through reading Ezra, Nehemiah, and I got into Proverbs eventually. And in Proverbs it says, it's better for a husband to sit on the roof than have a nagging wife. So, I haven't been quite sat on the roof. I just think this morning we're going to look at what Jesus has been saying and where he's going. What I will encourage you though before I start is this prayer station. Please, once we've done the dedication and we're into singing the last song, please go and write some prayers because that's what it's there for. And what we've got is, when you want to give thanks, you put them on this end here. Prayers in the middle are for things we want prayer for, and we'll leave them stuck on there until they've been answered, and then we're going to move them from there over to answered prayers. The bucket's important because it's things we need to let go of. And there's some post-it notes on there. All you've got to do is write something on a post-it note that you want to get rid of in your life, something that's not good in your life. Throw it in the bucket. We're not going to look at them. What we're going to do is once the bucket's full, we're going to burn them. And it's things we need to get rid of. Things we need to take to Jesus and let things change in our lives. So you get rid of them in the bucket. Write it down over there. Just take a post-it note, write it down, screw it up so nobody can see it, throw it in the bucket. Once it's full, we get rid of it. Where and what are we at? We're going to do a reading now. And it says, it's from John chapter 10, and it starts at verse 7. And it says, Jesus said again, truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. A thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come so that they may have life and have it in abundance. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, since he is not the shepherd, does not own the sheep, and leaves them and runs away when he sees a wolf coming. The wolf then snatches and scatters them. This happens because he is a hired hand and doesn't care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, I lay down my life for the sheep. But I have other sheep that are not from this sheep pen. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. Then there will be one flock one shepherd. This is why the Father loves me, because I lay down my life so that I may take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own. I have the right to lay it down, and I have the right to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. We are talking about Jesus. Jesus had that authority to say he wanted to lay down his life. And he wanted to lay it down for you and me, so that we could be changed. And that's what we're going to look at this morning. We're going to see something up on the screen in a minute. Hopefully, if everything goes right. It should say start. You have to turn the live off, John. Not that bit. That's it. Start. Making a new start with God. Making a new start in life. For some of us this morning, we're going to be looking at making a new start with God. For some of us that already know Jesus, let's make a new start. A new beginning. For those of you that don't know Jesus, maybe this might be the first time that you get to know him. You see, I believe that we've two choices in life. Now, you could say, well, you're wrong, because I think all that happens is we live and we die and that's it. Finish. Well, I believe we've got a choice. And we've got a choice. We can either choose heaven or we can choose hell. And that's the only two choices we've got. And we've got to make that decision. And I think this morning, that's why we're coming to dedicate Leonardus. I've got that right? Right, that was good. We're coming to dedicate Leonardus because we need to make a choice. And the reason we're doing a dedication is because Leonardus can then make a choice later in life as to whether he wants to follow Jesus or he doesn't. But that's his choice. His parents can't make that choice for him. You can't make that choice for him. He's got to make it for himself. And it's the same for each one of us. At some point in our lives, we make a choice. We either choose to follow Jesus or we don't. We either choose to accept Jesus into our lives or we don't. And that choice says where you're going to go. If you choose Jesus and accept Jesus into your life, you go to heaven. If you decide not to choose him, you go to hell. Now you can say, John, you're wrong, because you just live and you die. That's it. Boom, done. But that's what I believe. So, looking at that, making a new start, let's look at the next slide. We are all unique individuals. We make our own decisions. Sometimes it works out. Whatever decisions we make in life, we have to make them. We make our own. Nobody makes them for us. People can tell you what to do, and you decide whether you're going to do it or not. And sometimes when you're parents, you have to discipline your children, because they will decide they're not going to do what you want them to do, whether you like it or not. And if you ask Carmen, she'll tell you. She's had children and grandchildren, and now great-grandchildren. There's sometimes when it doesn't work out for us, and we have to look at that. So let's go on to the next one. There are possibly 6 big questions about making a start. What is life about? Does God exist? Who is Jesus? Why does life mess up? How does Jesus' cross sort it out? And what am I going to do about it? And we're going to look at those this morning. So let's go to the next one. Life. What is it all about? You know, we can say all sorts of things about life and what it's about. It's about supporting a football team. No, it's not. That's enjoyment. That's something that's pleasurable. it's about going to the pub and having a good time. No, it's not. That's about enjoyment and enjoying yourself. It's about being friends with other people. No, it's not. That's about enjoying yourself. Let's look at the next question. Does it have a meaning? Well, what is life about? What does it mean for me? These are questions we need to ask ourselves. What is my life, or what's the meaning of my life? Why am I here? What am I going to do with my life? And if you're godparents this morning, I hope you're seriously asking these questions, because that's what you're saying you are, godparents. And you need to ask yourselves these questions. What does my life mean? Does it have a meaning? Who am I? You see, I know who I am because God made me. And He created me in my mother's womb. And He eventually brought me to know Him. I didn't get to know Him till I was 18. And then He changed my life dramatically. But who am I? Me? I am who I am because of Jesus. I do what I do because of Jesus. And for no other reason. I say what I say because I want to project Jesus and not me. I am who I am because of Jesus. Next one. How do I find happiness? That's a question that everybody asks. I find it in drugs. I find it in alcohol. I find it in relationships. We look for happiness all over. And in all those things I've just mentioned, you never ever find happiness. You might find it for a little moment, but it's never complete. It's never fulfilled in other things. I can tell you from experience, I found Jesus and I found happiness. It changed my life. Does it mean that things don't go wrong in my life? No, it doesn't. But happiness is not about being jolly. It's something internal. The happiness I know is that I'm going to heaven. And I know that for 100%. I'm going to be with my Father in heaven. Can you say that this morning? I am going to be with my Father in heaven. Because if you can't, you need to listen. I'm going to be with God and with Jesus in heaven. How do I find happiness? And how is it going so far? Have you found happiness in your life? Have you found the meaning of life? Have you found what it really means to live? I have. Have you? Let's go on to the next slide. God. Does He exist? Let's have a look. The Big Bang. Suffering. Believers. Invisibility. The Bible. The Big Bang. Wow. Did it happen? And if it did happen, how did it happen? Did somebody light the blue touch paper? If you've ever seen a firework go off, somebody has to light it. If you want a big bang, there has to be somebody that ignites that bang. So I'm not adverse to a big bang. I just believe God created it. I believe God created this world and everything in it. What we decided to do with it is a different matter. So suffering. Well, why is there all this suffering in the world? You know, there's quite often suffering in the world because of man's greed. We want to be greedy, so we want to have everything ourselves. We don't want to share it. You look at two children playing, a brother or two brothers playing, or a brother and a sister playing. And one wants more than the other. Always. Very rarely do they want to share. I know, because I had that experience with my own brother. He never wanted to share. I shared everything with him, but he never shared anything with me. That's not true. It was both the same way. We didn't share. Human beings don't want to share. Normally, they want to accumulate everything for themselves. They want everything. And so, because we want everything, and everything has to be ours, we end up with suffering. Because some people haven't got. Believers, there's nothing worse than a believer. You know, they're a real pain in the butt. You know, they go to church every Sunday, and they come out of church, and they don't care less. It's not true. But that's the perception we get these days. You know, church is for people that can't cope, that don't know how to cope. Oh, I'll tell you different. I can cope. I don't need to come to church to be able to cope. I come to church because I want to share with my fellow believers what Jesus is doing. That's why we had a sharing time this morning. I want to know what Jesus is doing in people's lives. And I want to see the change in their life. And I want to share my faith with them. And as we come together, we see a bigger light. And yes, do people come to church that are a pain in the butt? Yes, they do. Do I do everything that's perfect? No, I don't. Do I upset people? Yes, I do. Do I like upsetting people? No, I don't. That's the difference. But there are people that come to church that don't know Jesus. And people judge the church on people that don't know Jesus. They judge the church quite often on people that come to church, not on believers. Believers are different to people that come to church. Believers are people that have accepted Jesus Christ into their life, not just churchgoers. And that makes a difference. The Bible, believe it or not, the Bible, this book here, tells us all about life. Now, you might not want to know about Jesus, but I recommend reading this Bible. Most of us here live under the rule of this book, believe it or not. Most of the laws in this country come out of this book, or come from this book. That's changing slightly now as we get the governments in that we're getting in, but most of the laws in this country are based on what's in this book. So if you want to know about the laws in this country and what this country is based on, you need to read this book. And it's worthwhile reading. It tells you about everything. It tells you about loving your wife when you marry her. Shortly. No. Shortly. Listen. Shortly. Make it quick. It tells you, if you go to the Song of Solomon, Song of Songs in this book, read it. It tells you how to look after your wife. Song of Songs. Yeah. Song of Songs in the Old Testament. Bible gives you a good grounding on life. Let's look at the next slide, John. He's lost it. Mess. Why is life such a mess? We have angry words, climate change, war and hunger, lies and destruction, lust and greed. The Bible calls it all sin. That's where it is. We've already said that it's due to man's greed that lots of things are happening in this world. War and hunger, lies and destruction, even climate change. I'll tell you, I used to teach at Leeds College of Building and I taught there 17 years, not 7 years. And I used to teach on climate change, or some of it. One of the lessons I had to teach was climate change. And I'd say to my young people, they'd say, what should happen with climate change? Well, you should turn lights off when we go out of the classroom. You should turn off your lights, and you should turn off this, and you should turn off that. And I used to turn around to them and say, are you willing to give up your mobile phone? Are you willing to give up your mobile phone and your computer? Oh no, we can't give them up. That's too important. I said, well, why should I care? Why should I care about turning off my lights if you're not willing to give up anything? I said, what you've got to look at is, I haven't got that much longer to live on this planet. I'm a lot older than you. So why should I care about saving electricity so you can use your mobile phone? Why should I care about you saving electricity so you could switch on your computer? The honest answer is, I do care. I care because I want people to survive in this world. But can you see what I mean? We look at things, and when it affects us, we say, oh, we can do everything that doesn't affect us, so long as you do it, I don't have to do it. Quite often, it's because of greed. Our greed. It's all right for me to have my phone and my computer, but it's not all right for you to have your lights on. You know, and we blame God. Why has God allowed this? Well, He's allowed it because He gave you and He gave me free will. He gave us the right to decide what we want to do. That's what He's decided. That's what the Bible, and this, all of this stuff is what the Bible calls sin and asks us to change. Jesus, who is He? Let's have a look. He's an amazing teacher. He heals the sick. Had a liberating attitude to women. He made ordinary people His followers. And He was crucified by the Romans. Amazing teacher. As I said earlier, read this book. You see His teachings. You see His teachings. He healed the sick. We know that. It's recorded in Roman history as well as biblical history that this man roamed around in Israel at that time and he was healing people. His attitude to women. He sat at a well and he spoke with a Gentile woman. And at that time, people weren't supposed to sit with women and talk to them. Men didn't sit and talk to women. But Jesus sat down at a well and talked to a woman that wasn't a Jew. And Jewish men certainly didn't talk to women outside of the Israelites, outside of their own race. And Jesus broke that mold. He sat down and He just spoke with a woman at the side of the well and cared for her and told her her problems. He ended up healing her memories and everything else. But He has a liberating attitude. He allowed women to anoint His feet. And various other things He allowed them to do. He made ordinary people followers. He didn't go and look for scholars. He didn't look for people that had been to university and were fantastic scholars or great speakers. He went and He chose fishermen and tax collectors. And He made those His followers. And He wants to call you as His followers today. He wants you to be with Him today. He was crucified by the Romans. For what? Because He was different. He was willing to stand out in a crowd. And the people of that time didn't like Him because people were starting to follow Him. The Romans crucified him to get peace and quiet. They wanted peace and quiet because it was too much of a problem that Jesus was stirring up. You let him sing, it's all right. Let him stay there. I've got a bigger voice. The Romans wanted peace and quiet, so they crucified Jesus. But what they didn't realize is what we said earlier. Jesus came as the good shepherd, and he was willing to lay down his life for us. And this is the point at which he laid down his life for me and you. Next slide, John. The cross. And it was at the cross when Jesus laid his life down. He was nailed to a cross so that the sins of the world may be forgiven. The things that you do wrong in your life, the greed that you've got in your life can be put right. And that's what Jesus came to do. That's why we are here this morning to dedicate Leonardus. Some people might be saying, why? Because he's so noisy. But why is because Jesus came for people like Leonardus. He came for me and you. And he came to change our lives. He came to make us new people. I could tell you, when I was 18, I couldn't have cared less about anybody. All I wanted to do was for me. And I would have walked over anybody and done anything to get to the top. I couldn't care less. And then Jesus found me. How did he find me? He found me at a party. At a Christmas party. I was 18 years old. And for the first time at my auntie's, I didn't have to go outside and sing Christmas carols. I could stay in with the adults. And the kids that went out to sing Christmas carols sang before midnight, and they sang, "Oh, come all ye faithful." And they sang the last verse, and I just happened to say, remembering from school, you don't sing the last verse until Christmas morning, not before midnight. And this guy said to me, "Are you interested in that sort of thing, John?" And I said, "No, not really." And my mum said, "Well, he keeps a Bible at the side of his bed." Well, it was a Bible my grandparents had given me as a christening present. And I just kept it at the side of my bed because it was an ornament. I'd never read it, never even looked in it. It was just there. And this guy persisted and said, "I want to take you to this meeting, John. I want to take you to this meeting." And he kept ringing me up at home. He said, "Do you want to come this week?" And I said, "No, it's all right." And so he'd ring me again. So till eventually I went to shut him up. I thought, the only way I can get this guy off my back is to go to this meeting. And so I went. And I listened to what they had to say. And I saw people in the room. And they were different. They had something that I hadn't got. They had that empty space filled that was empty in me. And I went again the following week because I'd seen something. And I met an old gang leader of mine. And I was amazed to see him there. I'd been in a gang since I was an infant. Since I was 5 years old, I'd been involved with a gang. My parents didn't know, but I had. And I met this gang leader. And he said to me, "Are you interested, John?" I said, "Well, it is interesting." He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I've got so many questions to ask." He said, "Stop asking your questions and ask Jesus to come into your life. Do you want to do it now?" And I said, "No way." I said, "If I'm going to do anything like that, I'm going to do it on my own." And so I went home Friday night and I prayed and I said, for the first time in my life, "Jesus, come into my life." And guess what? Nothing happened. I got up on Saturday morning and I was just the same. I got up on Sunday morning, I was just the same. I got up on Monday morning, I was just the same, and I went to work here in Bradford. And I sat in the factory where I worked, and I was sat down in the middle of the factory with all the people around me who knew that all I was ambitious. And there God touched me. And I can tell you what happened. I jumped up off the stool that I was sat on. And I shouted out at the top of my voice, "I'm a Christian!" And I sat down twice as fast. Because that's the one place I would have never ever admitted that I'd given my life to Jesus. That's where my life changed. And ever since then, I've been telling people about Jesus. Because Jesus changed my life. If it hadn't been for Jesus, I would have probably been in prison. That's how much Jesus changed my life. I started to care about my fellow workers. And guess what? Because I shouted it out at the top of my voice, within a week, people were coming to me and saying, "John, what does this mean in the Bible?" And I hadn't got a clue, so I had to go home and read it. And then I'd go back to work and say, "Well, it means this." And I was telling everybody at work about how Jesus worked and how he changed my life. And if you're wondering why you're here this morning, that's why. Because we're coming to start Leonidas off in a life that can change him. A life that will make his life anew when he chooses for himself. But he has to choose for himself the same as you do. There is no other way but to choose for yourself. And this morning, if you decide to choose for Jesus, or if you want to know more, I've got some booklets. And if you want one of these booklets, I'm quite happy to give you one. Don't take one if you're already a Christian, because these are for people that want to know more. And if you live locally and you want to know more, I'm quite happy, when there's a few of us, to do a complete course on this booklet. So if you come back to me and say, "I want to know more, John," we'll do a course on it. If you live local. If you don't live local, find your own church and they'll do courses like this. Right? But if you want a booklet, you can take one. With pleasure. So, where do I go from here? First of all, you give your life to Jesus. If that's what you want. If you want to go to heaven, you want to know more, you want that gap filling that you cannot fill. You may be using other substances, you may be using alcohol, drugs, whatever. I ain't bothered. It's your choice. We make our own decisions in life. It is a shame, because I know that Jesus can fulfill that void for you. So we're just going to pray. So let's just pray. Bow your heads and Lord Jesus, if there's anybody here this morning that wants to know you for the first time, just enter into their life. Help them to understand you anew. Help them to feel your presence right now. And if you are wanting to know Jesus, then just say this prayer in your own heart, in your mind. Lord Jesus, just accept me as I am. I can come no other way. My life is not perfect. There is lots in my life that is wrong. I just care about myself and not too much about others. I want to change. Jesus, come into my life now and be with me from this day on. Amen. Amen. What we're going to do, we're going to go into the part that you've all really come for. So if somebody wants to go get Hillary and the people that are out, that will be lovely. And we need to put the other PowerPoint, John.